Welcome to the Depth Dialogues podcast,
where we explore how depth psychology is applied to tackle contemporary social issues.
I'm Kirk Schneider.
And I'm Tyler Gamlin. Okay, welcome back, everyone. On today's episode of Depth Dialogues, we're pleased to introduce Dr. Nathaniel Granger. Dr. Granger is a past president of the APA Division 32 Society for Humanistic Psychology and has been recognized with several awards, including the Hari Kumari Early Career Award and the Sandy Sella Smith Exemplar Award. He serves as an adjunct professor at Saybrook University and is the founder and director of Be REAL Ministries, where he works closely with marginalized communities as both a pastor and psychotherapist. Dr. Granger is a sought-after speaker and writer with numerous publications, presentations, workshops, and keynotes to his credit. His notable works include Stay Awhile, Poetic Narratives on Multiculturalism and Diversity, Silent Screams, Poetic Journeys Through Addiction and Recovery, Rising Voices, Poems Towards a Social Justice Revolution, and Humanistic Approaches to Multiculturalism and Diversity. His doctoral research, Perceptions of Racial Microaggressions Among African American Males, a Heuristic Inquiry, reflects his deep commitment to social justice and healing. In addition to his many roles, Dr. Granger is a co-founder and treasurer of the Rocky Mountain Humanistic Counseling and Psychological Association and co-chair of the 4th World Congress of Existential Therapy, which will convene in June 2026. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Nathaniel Granger to the Depth Dialogues podcast.
Wow. Well, thank you for such a warm introduction, and hearing it, I find myself shirking a little bit, and so. But thank you so much for the introduction and for having me.
Yeah.
Well, Nathaniel, let's shirk together. That's what we hope for here, and it's great to see you again. And thank you so much for being our guest today. And I have lots of questions, and I know Tyler does too. We have lots to get into, but initially, I'd really like for you to share with our audience what brought you here to this place and all the applications of depth psychology and existential humanistic psychology to social crises that you are so passionately engaged in. Maybe you could share first of all a bit about what motivated you, what compelled you about going in this direction, this activist psychological direction.
Oh, Kirk, I think I was propelled into this as a child. It feels as if I was born into it. Growing up in inner city Chicago, Chicago being a very political city, in Illinois certainly with its political system. And as a child, my mom worked the election polls, and my dad was was a president of the block club committee, and so my dad would come home from work, and when he walked into the house, and he would shout, say it loud. And my two brothers and I, we knew, just what to say. I'm Black and I'm proud. And so it was instilled in me to fight for justice and to be passionate about and not just for Black people or even oppressed people, but really just the welfare for all people, the welfare of humanity. And then I later, of course, stumbled upon existential psychology, and upon stumbling upon it, again, it felt as if I was birthed into it. It was I was doing this all the time. It resonated so with my being. Of course, I didn't know the names of various philosophers and theorists, but the underlying theme, the underlying thread of existential humanistic psychology was tied to me, and so I find myself here. And there's been times, Kirk, that I would question, man, what am I doing? Why am I here? Even fight against it, and certainly, certainly being a pastor and founder of Be REAL Ministries, and with certainly its paradoxical views at times, and even even criticisms perhaps from both sides, and being found in the middle of this, in the cusp of this. I question, am I is 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 it if it's is it hypocrisy? And of course, we often ask ourselves that, even in our work with our clients, are we being hypocritical? Am I being authentic? And so, yes, I find myself at this place, and I try not to question it as much as just kind of rolling with it and just accepting, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. So, but can you say a little more about your connection with existential psychology? Because that's intriguing. Such a broad word, but what do you feel most passionate about that identification or connection?
Kurt, it's I think what I feel is it's more metaphysical than cognitive or even physical. It is God, finding a meaning to, just my existence, and and all that it entails, finding a meaning to my various parts of me, and why is this way, and why is this, and trying to, and so the inquiry, the introspective inquiry, it expands, and you want to know, and try to find some meaning to this thing we call life, certainly, Kirk, as it ties into social justice, and growing up, I knew I was Black before I knew who I was. I knew of my race before I knew before I had a sense of my being, of who I was. And so growing up with this, and having that being a part of me, it just begs the question, man, what is going on with society? What is my role? Can I fix it? Can I solve the problem? And I don't know. I just continue to try. But at best, I get a sense that I have some meaning of maybe not the problem, but my purpose. And
Yeah.
so yeah, y'all got to stop me too, because I get carried away.
Well, that's all right. It's stirring a lot for me about meaning and questions, the big picture of living. What do we all, and why
Oh, Kurt,
really?
Tyler.
Yeah, I think he's
Okay.
gonna. There we go.
Oh, okay.
Shut up for a second.
So on the heels of that question, Nathaniel, I wonder if you could share some about what are the leading ways or the main ways that you are applying your existential wrestling, the existential questions that you personally have grappled with. And it sounds like your father, your parents, your background very much brought these issues to the fore, a question of who you are and who you want to become, what really matters about life, and about the vital life, I would say, right? The vital society, the vital life.
Mhm.
How is that playing out now for you? Or what do you see as the main uh, applications of that grappling that you've done right now?
Well, Kurt, one of several, I mean, several things I've done and am a part of. One is diversity, equity, and inclusion, of course, DEI, and I know the political climate that we're in now, it speaks negatively of DEI, and have taken the letters DEI and have changed the meaning of it completely. And whereas, of course, it is simply diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right.
I think as a challenge, um, I- to, and I understand that there's a challenge to want to think equitably when we're when we're governed by colonialism, certainly, which ties into privilege and also capitalism, and so when you have the lead in colonialism and capitalism, surely you don't want to think equitably. And so this is a challenge. How do we get people to understand, as humans, to think equitably? Certainly diversity speaks of itself in a sense, because when we think of diversity, we think of race, we think of sexual orientation, we think of religious diversity, we think of the types of diversities that are tangible. And one thing that some of us in this work we have fallen in error of, and that is not being able to have a diversity of thought. And so we may fight for diversity for all people, but then when all people show up with different ideologies and different political views, then we want to fight, and so now we do find ourselves in a sense in a state of hypocrisy. And so and so I don't want to be hypocritical of myself. And so yes, I want what's best for people of color and for the marginalized, and I can talk this talk and preach this thing, so to speak, that I want what's fair for all people. But then when you show up and your ideology kind of goes against my ideology, do I become more, one of Kirk's terms, do I become more polarized, or do I become stuck in my polarizations so that I can't even hear the views of the other person? And so I have to get to a place, really, and I think this is very important. I think this is of utmost importance to, as we do this work with diversity, just that term diversity, that we have to be be mindful of diverse thoughts, and respect diversity of thought. And so and then certainly inclusion in this thing, DEI. And it certainly is a term that's really focused on HR in the workplace. How do we make a workplace or make an environment more inclusive? And so one of the, for something, this thought just crossed my mind, just a fleeting thought, of why are all the Black kids sitting together at the in the cafeteria, and so is that an indicator that they're not included? No, I don't think that's an indicator that they're not included. They're sitting together because that's their cultural milieu, so to speak, and certainly all the white people just happen to be sitting together too. All of everyone. I was at a I was I was at a birthday party just recently, and my son's partner says to me, "Why are all the Hispanic people over there, and the white people over here, and the Black people were over here?" It's interesting. I didn't even notice until it's one of those things you don't even notice because it's so natural to be with your own, that you don't notice that you have formed these different pockets. However, that does not mean you're not included. If we're all under one umbrella, just because we're not mingling doesn't mean we're not included. But by reason of us all being welcome under that umbrella, that's the inclusion piece. And then last but not least, later they added a B to it, and that is belonging. So it's DEIB and belonging. And just in a nutshell, as humans, as the human species, we all belong. We all belong. Yeah. I'm sorry, I've gotten on a tangent here.
No, that's not to me.
But I guess this is the substratum of what I do.
Yeah, so it feels like metaphorically it's diversity within unity, and in the unity of the humanity, in a sense. The big tent of humanity, can it hold the diversity?
Yeah.
In a much more sensitive or supportive way? That's what comes to mind. But so can you say more? I'm really jazzed to hear more about how you're concretely helping to reconcile those views or to coexist with those different views. Because you talked about how hard that diversity is to hold, and it's definitely hard for all of us, I would say, most of us for sure. So I know you're involved in that kind of bridge building with your Be Real Ministries as a pastor, with poetry. And I'm also very aware and appreciative that we did the dialogue together with you and Roger Brumet, who's a white police officer. This was about 10 years ago, and I think it's an iconic illustration of being real with each other,
Mhm.
and finding something of connection and of value, even though there was significant differences in perspective between both of you in that encounter, experiential democracy encounter. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the skills or the tools that you bring to bear now to work with these diverse viewpoints, personally, professionally. That's a big question, I know.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Um, so I'm gonna build what I'm gonna say on this I guess an answer to how do I reconcile the dilemma
Yeah.
of being pulled in these different directions, and it certainly is a dilemma, and I have had to um, contend with that dilemma, and even though it may present as an a systemic dilemma, even though, or dilemma that's without, it's perhaps more the dilemma uh, uh, that I have to contend with is the dilemma within. How do I reconcile with the fact that, man, I'm Black, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. How do I reconcile with these different pieces without losing my mind? Uh, uh, your own self, you yourself can drive you crazy, and so.
Like no one else.
Say what, Tyler?
Like no one else.
Like no one else. And so, and so, uh, and so, 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 so to answer the question, uh, one of the things I have really been trying to uh, work on with myself and applying to myself, which ultimately, apply in the work, is this sense of being. In humanistic psychology, that being is like one of the key words, being. And but then again, going back, I think I don't know if I mentioned it during the recording, but my favorite quote from Camus is man is the only creature who refuses to be who he is. And so uh and so reconciling this dilemma of my various parts, it just, it stands to reason that I need to find a way to fully be me in order to be this concept of fully human. What does it mean to be fully human? And I asked my students that when I was teaching, what does it mean to be fully human? Uh, but I have to employ that for myself. What does it mean for me? And so one of the things that uh, going back to the question, and how do I apply it, perhaps socially or in various walks, I had to get to a place, Kirk, of accepting not so much what I do, but rather who I am, and in doing so, have come to this thought, even as it pertains to psychotherapy. In psychotherapy, we do psychotherapy. This is what we do. We do it for a living. We do it for a cause. We do this, and I think we do ourselves sometimes a disservice. I guess fully within ourselves when we take on the mindset that we do this. I would submit that we get to a place of embodying psychotherapy to the extent where and I don't know if Kurt can hear me, to the extent that we're not doing psychotherapy, I'm not doing therapy, I am therapy. And so and so this is the reconciliation of the dilemma, Kurt, is if I'm in my office with a client, I am therapy. If I'm talking to the cashier at the store, I am therapy. And it's interesting when you embody it, when you I know I'm preaching to the choir, when you embody it, it gives you a sense that, wow, I'm where I'm supposed to be. But on the flip side, it's not necessarily where you want to be. It's where again, that's another dilemma to reconcile.
So you're holding contrasts and contradictions within yourself.
Yes.
So you're modeling the therapy in a way, but it's not always comfortable or where you'd ideally like to be either. But
absolutely
doing the work within. Yeah.
And so, and then too, one of the things that comes with that is we may be in this field and we may do this work, maybe pay bills or whatever. But at the end of the day, when we embody it and you become therapy, you find yourself being therapist at home. You find yourself being therapist in social interactions. And so wherever you go, you bringing this with you. And so even though you're not doing a planned out work, you are doing the work by being therapy.
Yeah.
You're touching on something. I'm so glad that you've brought that up, because this was something at a recent training at the Existential Humanistic Institute. On the first day, this was my intention, that I'm not here just to learn how to do a job. I want to embody these things. How can I carry this presence in my everyday life and authenticity? And to be with another is not something that we just stop at 5 p.m. on Friday and say, okay, now I'm just going to go live my life. I'm done being with people as part of my job. So I really resonate with what you're saying, Nathaniel. And I'm so happy that you got into the work that you do that's not just in existential humanistic therapy, but in the ministry work. And my feeling is that it's not something that you do that kind of goes on or off, where you're a therapist and then a minister. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the feeling that I'm getting is that it's kind of an integrated approach to expanding who you are as an individual out into the world with the work that you do, rather than the kind of, right now I'm a therapist and then I'm doing a different job. Is that how you would categorize that? It sounds like it's kind of an expansion of how you are with another.
Wow, Tyler. See, this is one of the things why I find you so amazing, because I mean, you see this, and you know probably better than I see it myself, or could have explained it myself. It is very much an integration, and even though again, going back to the thing between beliefs, religious beliefs, and humanistic psychology, the it is a bridging. It is a, and it's not. It's a bridging to to diffuse the tensions between. So it's like it's kind of like a honoring this integrative diversity of thought. And so and certainly, and I think it certainly, certainly is expansive. And so I think it's really important work. And I want to write more about it and do more about it to help us all understand that part of who we are, part of our being, whether I believe the sky is blue and you believe it's green, apart, should I say, despite our different things or different concepts, we can't allow our different beliefs. We can't allow those things to divert
Mhm.
the importance of one's humanity. Yes, it's an integration, Tyler, because on so many different levels. A person's beliefs, particularly when their beliefs becomes, should I say, transcendent of religion. For instance, their belief may and I speak for myself, with Be Real Ministries. Be Real Ministries was originally formed as kind of like a fight against orthodoxy and welcoming people to be who they are. The only religious piece really, and perhaps even the ministry is predicated on, and has been a common thread, is the love of Jesus Christ. Was making a difference for real people through the real love of Jesus Christ. It was nothing else that religion has traumatized people with. Nothing else that makes the the ones on this side look at the religious folk and none of that craziness. So take the beauty of this and the beauty of this, and if we could bring the beauties together and integrate it, I think it's somehow philosophically it feels right. It feels right to me.
Yeah.
Just on that point of the love of Jesus Christ, tell me if I'm on base or off base, but I think you're implying that love of Jesus Christ it allows for a love of Buddha, of Allah, of the God beyond God of Paul Tillich, love of the spirit of inquiry and philosophy. You tell me, but
no, I do not
trying to bring it out.
No, you're certainly not off base. Love is the ultimate love. If we can, if your belief in Buddha allows you to love your neighbor, that cannot be refuted. And so love is the God. If we could really if we could bottle this stuff and sell it, the world would be a much better place. But if we could just really live and embody love for humanity, if we could just really allow ourselves to really, man, I mean, and it's so not easy, because people's exterior and people's behaviors, actions may be very, very ugly. And still, if I could get to a place of loving their humanity, not what you did. And I think this is where this unconditional love comes in, where, of course, even with Jesus Christ, it's full of mercy, full of, y'all people, he said, judge not. He didn't come to judge. It's the people judging one another and whatnot. Jesus pretty much said, y'all need to chill out with that. Mhm.
I'm hearing flavor of person-centered approaches as well. This unconditional positive regard. And that's why I'm so intrigued by your approach too, because when I mentioned integrative, I want to delineate what I'm seeing is you're integrating these two because it's a reflection of who you are in the world, not because you're trying to be more applicable to populations where you learn another skill to be able to see other clients where EMDR or something, but the work you do in this integration is a reflection of who you are, and there's no better way to be with someone when it is a real experience as opposed to just, oh yeah, I have this other set of skills, maybe I can help other people with that. Right. And I believe that that's part of this kind of lineage of starting or having a jumping off point in EH. I don't know what came first, but I'm seeing that being very important in this thread of how they're working together.
Oh, wow. It reminds me.
Just as well had, religion be part of you, but not part of the work you do.
Well, and it's interesting, and if it's a and if it's not hurting the person,
Right.
and it's only adding to the person, and it's not adding in a way that's destructive, but rather a way that is going back to that L word, that is full of love for humanity, love, and I'm talking about love to the place where you love their humanity. I lost my point. What were we just saying? Bring me
The
back.
love is overwhelming.
Well,
Yes. I know what I'm saying. So yes, yeah, there was a when you mentioned jump off point. When I was in practicum and I was seeing clients, my clinical supervisor, Dr. Dig G, he said to me this one particular day, I was going in to see clients, and of course I'm nervous, and because God, today I might do, because I learned Gestalt, and I may do some empty chair stuff. I'm thinking all of these different things that I wanted to or could apply. And Dr. G said to me, he said, today, Nathaniel, he said, forget everything you learned. He said, I want you to forget everything you learned. And today, I want you to go in there and be you. And I was like, it scared the crap out of me. I didn't know what to do with that. But it was the most liberating advice I could have ever received. To embody something to such an extent where you're given permission to be you. You're given permission to go in there and just be yourself. And so I think, and this love, this beauty, and I believe as humans we all possess it. We all possess the capacity to love, but the courage to do so must be cultivated. This love must be cultivated. The courage to love must be cultivated. This beauty must be cultivated. And I really believe that. I really believe we can get to a place as humans to to be lights to other humans, and you know, to really be, if I can be my most beautiful self, and that's not saying flawless self, by no means. By no means is it saying might be flawless, but if I could be my most beautiful self, then there's an inspiration that comes from that I'm not even in control of, but it resonates. It's a light. It just resonates, and then like then it helps others to become their beautiful self, and then we exchange beauty, and it's I let me say this. Can I share this with you?
Sure. Yeah.
When I was 8 years old, in growing up in Chicago, in this era of Black power and say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud, and the era of incense and weed and psychedelic lights and posters. We had a little tiny house, little row house, and downstairs we had what was called a rumpus room. And my dad had on the wall of this rumpus room, he had a big giant psychedelic poster of a Black man with a big giant afro, just like this, and he was with the inscription Black Power. And then to the left of that, to the right of that, there was another poster, big giant poster, and this was a Black woman with a big afro, and her breast was exposed, and so you had the Black man who was very, very strong, and this woman whose breast was exposed, and this little 8-year-old boy, I wasn't so impressed with neither one. In fact, I was embarrassed more because this lady was showing her breasts. I didn't know nothing about breasts or nothing like that. And the man, I don't know, he was strong looking, but he wasn't stronger than my dad. So I thought in my mind. But between those two posters, there was a skinny poster in the middle, and with wording. And the wording, I learned at 8 years old, not knowing that the wording would come back many decades later in this field that we're in. And the words of this poem, it was, I do my thing and you do your thing. I am not in this world to live up to your expectations, and you are not in this world to live up to mine. You are you, and I am I. And if by chance we find each other, it's beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And of course, that poem was signed by Frederick S. Pearls. And we know him as Fritz Pearls.
Right.
I have that on my wall above my desk here, and as soon as you like smiling, I love it. And
Thanks for reminding us.
Yes.
And so this is what you're bringing to your poetry, your poetry groups, and to the Be Real Ministry, and your psychotherapy. This sense of bringing your beautiful self to the meeting, and opening to the other, bringing their beautiful self, supporting them. I don't know, is there more that you can say about ways that happens, that others could bring into their contacts with people who are different from them, or that they're struggling with, who have different political, cultural, ethnic backgrounds? What can you share with others about how to do that, or what to bring in?
Well, one of the things that Kurt, you and I worked on certainly was the democracy project, and how that worked was it did just that. It allowed you to show up with yourself, with your beautiful self, and allow someone else to show up with their beautiful self. And even though their beautiful self and initially may have been very ugly to me, and vice versa, but when we can show up authentically ourselves in all of its in its beauty, and then we come to recognize, wow, you're just as human as I, and I'm just as human as you. You was afraid, but I was afraid also, and it's like, oh, okay, and then we could get it. So that's it right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
talk a bit about more about your poetry and the books that you've published? Just how that process came for you. Was that something that you did before getting into the field of EH, or was that something that kind of developed later on?
Actually, I had a poem published in I can't even remember the year, but it was a long, long time ago, several decades ago, 30 years ago. No, it was actually to my wife, and so and and the poem was actually published, and I got a little award for it. But also too, when I was very young, I wrote poetry, and so poetry was kind of like my creative escape in a sense. And so I was drawn to poetry. In fact, uh, uh, a poem that I wrote many years ago uh, was my autobiography then, and it was, and I had to present it to an audience, and afterwards people came up, they were crying, and it touched so many, and so poetry has been a part of me, and uh and 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 certainly as it pertains to social justice,
Yeah.
and and
I,
yeah.
I highly recommend that people see you and Roger in that experiential democracy project encounter, which is on YouTube, but especially to hear your poem. You recited a poem about your experience as a young Black youth in the South Side of Chicago and your contact with police and how that changed over time and the challenge of that, the depth of that, how it affected you, and sharing that with a police officer directly.
Hmm.
I just, I think the world of that moment in particular. It was a remarkable
Hmm.
meditation, from the deepest part of your heart, it seemed to me,
Mhm.
and powerful plea for humanity. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. It's interesting because you saying that you well, I guess what I want to say is when it comes from a deeper place, and it's this is a bizarre thing about showing up as your most beautiful self is ego. Is ego. You don't show up to so the light can shine on you. You really show up because you are light and you're trying to illuminate everyone else, And so uh and so and so because ego is not a part of that, you you keep no record. And so it's very awkward sometimes when I'm asked, you know, well, what do you do? What do you do? And even coming on the podcast, I'm like, what do I do? They're like, you know, because when you're being, you don't realize a lot of times that you're doing. You don't realize it. You're just being. And so yeah.
Well, you're embodying that.
Yeah.
From where I'm sitting.
Well, I'm, and it doesn't stop, you know. It's 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 a it's a very, you know, comes with challenges, but it's a very enriching way to be. And I've learned that with various health challenges and, you know, and dealing with, you know, there's so much social injustice. This world, it seems to be like it's going to hell in a handbasket. It seems like there's so much ugliness. It's very easy for me to succumb to that. Mm-hmm. But when I succumb to that, and it's been those times that I found myself, you know, succumbing to some stuff that I probably should have, you know, we all do, and some hateful ways or whatever the case might be. I've discovered that when I do that, I'm not being a friend to myself. And I've incorporated this into my repertoire is being a better friend to myself. Okay. And if I allow bitterness, if I allow you to just make me bitter, then I'm not being a friend to myself. You're not gonna stop me from being a friend to myself. And so even dealing with you know, some chronic pain. I mean, goodness, some years ago, I was on, matter of fact, during the time I was working on my dissertation, I was on 30 milligrams of morphine a day. I'm so happy I'm not doing that anymore. But part of the reason I'm not doing it anymore is coming to a mindset that, you know, I have this pain, but for so long I have let this pain have me. And so coming to an acceptance that instead of me fighting this thing, I have it, but I refuse to let it have me.
I'm trying to escape it. Trying to constantly escape it by putting something in between.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. You know, you ever find that people who are struggling with addictions, the more you separate them from it, the more they want it?
Despite the negative side effects, the knowledge of it doesn't matter, right? They know. And often with addiction, we see that issues in your life will start to come from the addiction. So now it's not just a way to escape, but now it's actually causing you problems. So the relationship with it changes.
Yeah.
Not a way to feel better. Now it's the way to feel better about the problems that it's causing. And
oh my God, yeah, such a vicious cycle, you know. It makes me think of Billie Holiday's "Good Morning Heartache" song, "Good Morning Heartache," where she sings. I mean, her the morning heartache was the addiction. Every morning it was the same. Every morning, good morning heartache. Here we go again. Good morning heartache. You said once that you were my friend, you know, and you know, you end up in this relationship that starts off so beautifully, if you would, you know, because the high or whatever, the people, whatever, the escape or whatever was so, but then now it has the power over you. You don't have the power over it, but now that it has the power over you, now you're dealing with, as one of my poems depict in Silent Screams, actually the name, the poem after the book's title is Silent Screams. The addiction leaves you with this silent scream. It's almost like you're being tormented. And so, yeah.
You bring up a really powerful point about how sort of the last stop is ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't return to some kind of friendship with yourself, what can you return to? I mean, it also reminds me, I love that analogy of well, not co-creating, but creating, co-creating an inner home.
Hmm.
Can you, it sounds like you've spent a quality time forming, adorning, uh, uh, molding, I guess, shaping that inner home as a place that you can return to, you can live in, not only live in, but thrive in. And so the other quick highs or whatever, or desperate strivings for something to hold on to, you don't need as much because you're already there in a way. Is that making sense? You're already there.
It makes sense in a sense
Okay.
that this state of peace was established. This state of well-being was established. And so, but it doesn't make sense in if there's an element of gloating in it, or an element of something else that would taint the
Right.
I guess the beauty of it. And so it's it so so
Yeah.
so so it's there, but it's there humbly. I humbly accept that it's there.
Yeah.
It's not something like, oh, I'm beautiful, whatever.
Yeah.
No, it's very humbling, very, very humbling, Kirk.
Yeah.
And Kirk, incidentally, um, at the outset of me coming into existential, humanistic psychology, it was your being and your way that that most resonated with me, in that you were bigger than life, but more humble as a child. And it was it's like, wow, who is this man? Who, I find that most expansive, when I look at um, uh, uh, just humanity, and even on an individual level, the human, to be high and so low, that doesn't come with gloating. It comes with something else. It comes with recognizing that it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy being me, but I'm the best person for the job. And it comes with such a humility.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
I,
from my
I'm
own,
not sure what to say about, but
I,
much appreciation.
I will co-sign on that from my own experience. Yeah, that very similarly is what I felt coming into the field, and just experiencing you, Kirk, as a mentor and a leader in the field, and not just reading your work and seeing videos of you, but being with you, and that speaks to my desire to embody these things. Yeah, Nathaniel, you really hit the nail on the head with the way you put that, and yeah, a beautiful conversation this has been.
Yeah.
I think we're all embodying it, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
Well,
Well, any final reflections, Tyler or Nathaniel, and before we come to a close?
I'm so moved by this conversation and just being in your presence and sharing this space with the two of you. And Nathaniel, I know you, kind of outside of our work, and yet I've learned so much about you as a person in the last hour, and I'm so grateful for that, just personally. And that speaks to your ability to be with others, and very motivating and touching. And I'm happy that we have people like you in the field and in the world.
Thank you, Tyler.
This is the gift that you bring.
Thank you. And and two, that's a hint, I guess while we're here, you bring the same gift, and light knows light, beauty knows beauty. And Tyler, you certainly do too. You bring it. And my first encounter of Tyler was can I put you on the spot? my first encounter that really got me, that really like because I didn't know you, I just we were just in passing, but we all went out to lunch we came for the conference, and we went to the brewery, that wet word never wants to roll off my tongue. The brewery owl.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And it was a group of us, and when they came to collect the bill was already paid. And of course we all want to know, well, who did it? Who took care of the bill? And Tyler never said that he did. And someone else said, well, he did it. and there was so much in that. There was so much giving in that for a person to not know us, not know these people, but if I'm able to give something, let me pay for that lunch, and without even looking for anything in return. And so at that moment, just your energy, I was wowed by it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being you.
Wow. Good place to end there. Kirk, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I feel this is a very natural place to come to a close for this segment of our connections. There are many more segments.